Tournaments are starting again this week, so this is everything you need to know from rotations, items, fighting tips, the boons you should use, and more. So invest in the channel if tip videos like this, pro breakdowns, and everything else sounds up your alley. But to start, I want to talk about rotations with and without the bat or gloves, because this season doesn't have a simple point and click teleport like last season, so you need to play way differently and go for more refreshes, which of course I'll show you how to get better at fighting in a second. But quick announcement, I think my stream schedule is going to be roughly once a week, so this week it's going to be Saturday at 2 p.m. PST on Twitch. But to start, many of you may be wondering if the bat or Sub-Zero gloves are even worth it to pick up. The launch pad is also back, so is it worth it to grab a couple of those instead? Well, I'd say you should still carry the bat if you find it. It's definitely not as necessary to carry as, say, the Void Mask was last season, so you can definitely still place well without it, but it will make the mid games and end games a little bit easier for you. The biggest reason I think this is because it slows how quickly your stamina gets drained while using it. So you can go for big distances in mid game, and then in end game, if you need to switch layers or go for height, then the mega jump helps there too. But you absolutely do not need to go out of your way to fight for a bat. In Chapter 6 Season 1, you could not live in endgame without the Void Mask or a blade, so if endgame was nearing, it was worth it to force a mid-game fight to try to get a rotation item. This season, that just isn't necessary. If you don't have any rotation, it's worth it to just continue into zone, use up some mats, and keep your health up. In solos, you will likely find some sort of rotation, whether that be the golden chug splashes, a boon that gives you a rotation effect, the bat, or the Sub-Zero gloves. So as long as you kind of have at least one of these, you're probably fine. Same with your trio, you can kind of mix and match any of these rotation items or boons if you're on the ropes a bit. So what boons can help you out on rotations? Boons aren't as easy to come by this season with the elemental chests being removed, and there's a lot more of them and a lot more bad ones, so I get it if you haven't paid attention to these this time around, because me too. However, there are two that are worthwhile, mainly just one though. The one that is sorta mid but could provide you with some decent use is the Gold Rush boon. This one gives you the Gold Rush speed effect when you open any container, which could be decent in early and mid games when you're around POIs, but you're really not opening as many chests and ammo crates in end game. So like I said, pretty decent during early game, and maybe you can even extend its usefulness by boxing up near a chest in mid game and opening it once you need to rotate out, but it's not that crazy. However, the better one is the Adrenaline Rush boon, and this one is actually worth it. It gives you the slap effect, which gives you a non-diminishing stamina effect for a certain amount of time. Then, after it turns off, you still have your full bar of stamina to be able to run through. You can activate this adrenaline effect at any time by mantling, hurdling, or wall jumping. So for example, I'll just throw up some walls on my rotate and be able to mantle off them for an infinitely repeating adrenaline effect, so I can sprint the entire rotate without needing to pause, slide, or anything. Pair this with the Gold Rush effect from the other boon, the Golden Water or the Golden Splashes, and you got a pretty good rotate without the need for bat or gloves. Okay, but regardless of what items you choose to assist on your rotations, you are going to need to build a lot more. So get this through your head. There is no free rotates this season, so you're going to need to be looking behind you every time you slide, and possibly throwing up walls behind you to block shots, or if it gets especially hairy with a lot of gunfire or running out of stamina, then you are going to need to make some halfway boxes. I recommend using woods for the walls to block shots and for most of your halfway boxes, since you'll only be there for a few seconds, but doing this strategy you will burn through a lot of materials. Last season, except for, the high elo lobbies, you kind of had the luxury of saving your mats till zone 10 or 11, then possibly getting a nice high ground retake, but that will not be the case this season. If you want a good placement, you are going to need to spam mats, protecting your back and keeping your health up on rotates. Then you will need a refresh or 2 or 3 to keep this pattern going. It's not going to come easy. Okay, so with that being said, I also want to walk you through some mid-game kills and some end-game kills to show you how to be a little bit more consistent in your games. Okay, so I get 3 kills right here. This is the first one. I'm already super low health, but I am able to turn around and finish this guy up, but there is another person trying to pressure me now. So I was able to get that big pot off and heal all the way back up, but I have almost 0 mats. So I try to refarm this tree, but I kind of accepted it at this point, being in Crime City, that I'm going to need to fight this guy. Fortunately, because I had already fought someone earlier, I was a little bit more confident doing that, knowing I had some old builds to fall back into, so that's when I was going for more aggressive peaks and pre-fires here, but absolutely not build fighting him. However, he didn't seem to be holding height aggressively, so even though I didn't have a lot of mats, I just wanted to see if he would contest me. And he didn't for a minute when I got his wall, but as soon as he did, I dropped back down into my box since I have 0 mats. Luckily, a third party does come over, so I'm able to rat at the bottom a little bit while they kind of fight it out and get distracted. And I know this isn't a super mechanical fight or anything, but I want to explain more the situational thinking that made me live in this scenario. I don't have any mats, so if I try to run, maybe I can hit a tree or two and put a couple walls behind me, but I'm not going to get far. They're going to spray me out or chase me, and I won't last a long time. So my best bet is to use my old builds, hopefully kill one of them, and then use their mats to fight the other person. And that's exactly what happened. This guy wasn't aware of where I was hiding. I get the kill, and I'm able to hit 2 really big shots with the best peek in the game, and from there, it's just barbecue chicken. I drop down because I know it's a now or never type of situation for this kill. If it goes into a build fight, I lose it. So I have to push aggressively now. And even though I take damage, that's fine because I won a 1v3. Okay, so now let me show you some endgame gameplay of me with and without the bat so you get an idea of how to rotate in real games. But first, thank you to Eneba for sponsoring this video. I know when I get burnt out from Fort, I love browsing cheap games to play something else, and recently I found this platform that has indie and AAA titles. 40,000 products from games to DLC, and they're all cheap, countless deals, and it's on any platform. So when me and the boys are midnight scrolling for something, I actually don't feel bad about taking a chance on a game that could be a one and done with the chance that it turns into one of those gems that I don't see the sunlight because of. Among Us and Helldivers. So do your research, find a game, but they got a remarkable Trustpilot score, and thank you again to Eneba for sponsoring this video. Okay, since there's been no solo tournaments, I want to show you some of my scrim highlights from this game. There's about 57 people alive, it's going into half and half zones, and I'm trying to get some surge damage before it turns on. So going for tags like that is actually kind of nice when you take return damage back, because it gives you a chance to pop the golden splashes without wasting it. So I need to rotate, so I pop the golden splash to get some health back, get that gold rush effect, and now I'm able to sprint to zone even quicker. The way to master these foot rotates is as soon as you run out of stamina, try and box up next to some materials. I saw this big rock, which I know gives 50 to 100 brick, so I'm able to farm that to get my materials back up and then make the final leg of the rotate. I see this guy has his floor edited up, so he's probably looking through that cone, and I know he's not in zone yet, so he's going to rotate soon, and he eventually does, but he expects me, so builds a wall. And I'm not able to get great damage on him, but you know, another tag will take that. So you'll notice I still have 2 launch pads, and you don't want to hold on to these for too long, because if you do this super late endgame, you're going to get beamed out of the sky, and zones are so close to each other that you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by using it that late. But I think using a short pad right where I'm at is about the perfect time to use one of your launch pads. You might be thinking, Reed, what the fuck, you used a launch pad to only go like 20 meters? That's not very far, that's not a good use of it. And I would argue that it absolutely is. I used that launch pad to get ahead of the people that could potentially have held me back and just sprayed at me while I rotated. So using that launch pad, even though I didn't go very far, was definitely worth it because I made the rotate, I didn't take any damage, and I saved almost all of my mats. So next zone pulls to the right, which is up the hill, and honestly, I probably should have used the launch pad again, but this time I didn't. This time I didn't because a short pad doesn't do very well against elevation, and doing a full launch pad all the way up could get me beamed out of the air, so I decided to do the foot rotate. This is one of those instances where the adrenaline rush boon would be fantastic. I run out of stamina, so I kind of have to box up in the middle here, and I'm not even in zone yet, and take some damage. Obviously, this isn't end of the world. I still can hold people behind me, get some refreshes, some damage, whatever I need, and then rotate into the next zone. So by no means is it a problem, but that adrenaline rush boon is so good on the foot rotates because you can go entirely across zone and get to front side. So instead of making it to safe zone once my stamina regenerated, I actually stayed in this halfway box for a little bit. I know I'm going to need a refresh if I'm going to get far into this game, so I might as well look for it now. I've seen a lot of people rotate past me, so I can honestly just hold late rotators back in zone and potentially get a refresh. And I almost was able to get that guy, but since I do still have pretty decent mats, it's not worth it to full W key that guy. Since I know there's not very many people behind me and one of them is super weak, I'm pretty safe to rotate, so I go on high ground. And that is the one benefit of rotating late. Everyone who goes early gets first priority in zone, but most of them take first priority on low ground since that's all there is. If you rotate late, you can go on top of people and get instant high ground. Under me, I spot some loot in the box, and if I can get the person who killed him away from that box, then that loot is mine. So I'm pushing, but I'm not pushing for the kill, I'm just pushing to get this guy scared enough to back away. And that's exactly what happens. I'm able to go in, get some ammo, a shotgun upgrade, and get the baseball bat. Unfortunately, there was no max, but that was plenty worth it for not even needing to fight. So I get beamed in the open, and now my game is getting kind of dire. I'm running very low on mats, I don't have a lot of health, and I'm on the back side of zone. The main thing you gotta do while rotating is if you see someone, just build behind you, because with the bat and foot rotates, you kind of have to. So after getting hit big, I'm back into that it's now or never type mentality where more, I'm just gonna push the first person I see. And luckily the first person I see was already pretty weak. So just like that, I'm back in the game. I got some siphon health, I still have my big pot, and now I have mats. The only thing now is to make sure I'm secure enough to be able to get that big pot off, but somebody is right on me pushing me. I try to stick to the edge of the zone so I don't have to use all 4 walls, but somebody actually does go around to my right side, so I have to wall that off and go up. Elevating is usually a good idea, however, in an endgame like this, I was very worried to do that because main height can always spray second height, and when I'm on wood trying to pop a med, that's not a good combo. I used my last bit of materials from the refresh making this box, and I'm able to refarm just a little bit on this tree to get a little further in this endgame. I'm able to outlast one more person, and I get a 6th place, which is not that bad. Remember, I'm streaming again this Saturday at 2 p.m. PST, which is your chance to play with me. Yes, literally the whole chat, all viewers on Twitch. But on another note, if you've been concerned with this season of Fortnite, check out this video essay about if growing out of Fortnite is possible. It's a really good one, I promise. And invest in the channel for more, use code reidtheninja or another small creator's code, and on that note, I am signing